This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
This is going to be a fun one, buddy.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited about it because
cool.
got me thinking since we talked the last time about so much stuff.
Yeah.
Before that, let me just say to everybody, Nana is holding steady.
Yeah.
She's still at home. She's recovering. They said she needs that transplant. One doctor last week said she's too old, so she can't get a transplant, so that was a bummer. But then another doctor said, well, somebody recently just was 80 years old and had a transplant. So we're kind of hoping that it, that's going to work out. So there's that. Another change in the household is there's this little Westie named Nellie that we got, your dad and I got, and you, because she lived with us. Yeah. But she came to us when she was 2 years old. Yeah. And your sister fell in love with her. Yeah. And so she went and lived with her. Mm-hmm. And then RJ wanted her. Mm-hmm. And so, since they got separated, then to kind of ease it there. Anyway, Nellie is back
with us,
where she belongs. She's here with us. This little Westie, she is now, she's been with us for so long. And then the time away was not as long. We would still see her all the time and everything, but she's 14. Yeah. And she's so happy to be here, and we are just still in love with her as we've always been, and so happy that she's here. She's so bossy.
Oh, she is.
So her name is Penelope. Mm-hmm. Her dad named her Penelope because she's like, there's an old cartoon called Penelope Pit Stop. And it's before you were around, so you don't know of it. But
I might know of it.
I don't know. But anyway, she's really fast moving and lots of energy. So her full name is Penelope, but then we call her Nellie. And because we call her Nellie, we call her Nellie Belly. And then because she's Nellie Belly, she's Belly Button. And so then I call her Button.
Yeah.
Nana calls her Donkey.
Yes, because whenever she first met her, Nellie went and sat right in her chest or something, right?
I don't remember, but...
And she wouldn't move, so...
Stubborn like a donkey.
Yes.
But, so that's the new news here. So, good news that Nellie's with us again, Belly Button, and that Nana's hanging in there. Yeah. All right, so here's what I wanted to talk to you about.
And then Nellie just perked up.
we have talked many times about you doing D&D. Mm-hmm. And the thing that you mentioned last week that I thought was super interesting, was super interesting, is that when you do D&D, you get to be a different character. You get to be somebody other than yourself.
Yes.
And it made me think about the Comic-Con stuff that you like to go to. Mm-hmm. And how everybody gets dressed up. Not everybody. A lot of people get dressed up in characters. Yeah. And I wanted to know, are those characters... And this is something that you love. Mm-hmm. And a lot of your friends love it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of your friends are on the spectrum. Yeah. So I'm wondering if there's a large population of people on the spectrum that follow Comic-Con and the character... Go ahead.
Let me put it this way. If you're on the spectrum, the chances are good that you have something that you are really fascinated about. Mm-hmm. And that you really enjoy doing or talking about or being involved in. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's almost a guarantee. But my point is that once I discovered tabletop gaming, which includes D&D, I was hooked. Mm-hmm. Because it's such a unique idea. It's like It's almost like a video game,
Mm-hmm.
but you actually interact and have full control over everything.
So the thing that I was wondering about is that when you go to Comic-Con, every time that I see that, the only thing that I can relate it to are like the superheroes that I know of.
Yeah.
And by no means am I one of those. I don't.
You're not a
Look,
nerd or a
look,
geek.
I don't watch Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know some of the characters on Star Wars. There's this big, huge dude that looks like a big blob. I don't know who he is, but I know what he looks like. There's the guy with
Jabba the Hutt.
maybe there's a dude with big ears that says things in reverse.
Yoda.
Yoda, yeah, and he says things backwards, right?
Yeah.
Yoda, I am,
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Did
Yes,
I do
that's
it
right. That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah. And so anyway, I don't Star Wars. I'm not a Trekkie.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm surprised you know that term.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've heard it a lot lately because with you and RJ in my life,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And then there's comic book heroes.
Yes. And I did want to ask you about that. That's what I wanted to get to today in this podcast.
Okay.
Because those characters have abilities, and they have a soft side to them, a connection, a reason for them being the way that they are.
Right.
And it made me think about you and how you function and how you have some special abilities. So while I say that I'm not you say I'm not a geek like that.
Yeah.
The thing, I really think that Spider-Man is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Spider-Man was just a kid, and then he got bit, and then he took that thing, and he turned into somebody that, like, think about it. All you just goes, and you get something across a building, it sticks, and you go flying. Right? It's so cool. I would love to be able to go stick and then fly. I would be flying everywhere. I wouldn't own a car. I wouldn't need a car. I would fly everywhere with my web.
Oh my
I could,
gosh.
you know what? I could probably have an extra web and like carry my groceries in it and the dogs,
Yeah.
right? And then have them there with me in one web, and then use the other web for us to fly all over town. But it's cool because he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And when he's not dressed up as Spider-Man, he tries to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And it made me think about you, and it made me think about every person that I've ever met with autism. And that there is just genuine aspect of your beings that come through. And I just see it, and I experience it, and I just think it's wonderful. But you also have, okay, like, if we're talking about superheroes, I think that your superpower would be that you never get offended. Even when I try. Yeah, you don't get offended.
Okay.
I think that as far as being a human, not being offended by things is just rare.
Yeah.
And I think that it allows you to just be very present in situations instead of getting all tangled up in the emotions of, well, that wasn't nice. Why did they say that? Why,
Right.
you know.
Right. But on top of that, I usually try and see things in the best light too, so that helps.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is natural for you.
Yeah.
It's just who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm saying about people that I know on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
There's this availability. I don't know. There's just this essence, I guess. I'll just use that word. It's an essence that is just remarkable. What do we call these guys? Spider-Man and all of them? Superheroes? So, those superheroes, do you relate to them the way that you relate to the Comic-Con people? Or are they the same, or do they intermix, or are they totally different?
Some of them are absolute geeks.
The characters?
The people who portray them.
No, but I mean, I don't know what that means. What
the
you
actors.
Just said.
The actors are sometimes some of them play D&D and stuff like that every week.
Okay.
And so, they're awesome people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really remarkable whenever you find out that some of these actors and actresses play D&D and things like that in their free time.
Actors and actors, what are you talking about?
Who play these superheroes.
Oh, I get what you're saying. So you mean Spider-Man might play D&D?
Yeah.
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 Do you think they wear their costumes?
I know for a fact that some of them still have, like the guy who plays Thor has a couple of Mjolnirs, which is the big hammer, and a couple of the Stormbreaker, which is the axe or whatever, in the later movies, has a couple of them.
So they get to keep their.
Not really, but they kept them anyway.
Yeah. So the characters.
The characters themselves.
Yeah, not the actors.
Okay.
But the characters. Somebody like Spider-Man, would Spider-Man be a part of Comic-Con, or it's a separate set of characters?
Comic-Con was originally based around comic book characters, which usually were superheroes.
Okay.
Including Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And Superman. And, which are two separate, not labels, but like two separate companies own each one.
All right. So the thing that made me think about this in terms of you is that these people, like Spider-Man, the character that they portray in the movies, and then this larger-than-life character, is presented as somebody that's a very decent human, somebody that's kind to people, and is kind of surprised by his own new abilities, and then tries to use those abilities for good. And I think about you when I think about that. Well, there is an exception. I don't get Batman.
You don't get Batman?
No. Why does he live in a cave? Why is the...
He doesn't live in a cave. He lives in a mansion.
Yeah, but it's so dark all the time. Like, everything's dark and gloomy with Batman, and then he talks like this. And it...
Do it again. That sounds just like him.
It's really weird. It's weird. Why does he talk? And he wears this mask, and then...
Because no one knows who he is.
Are you telling me, like, if I came in here and from my...
From the bridge of your nose up to your forehead had a mask on, I wouldn't recognize you?
Yeah.
So, there's a thing in comic books.
All right.
It's called distended disbelief.
Okay.
Or extended disbelief, something like that. Where it means you have to take everything as a grain of salt. With a grain of salt, or however that saying goes. Because some things are not based in real life.
Well, I can't tell you, when I do stand-up, that people will believe what I just said as the whole truth.
Yeah, when it's not.
No.
Yeah.
And I'm always surprised because people will interpret things the way that they do.
Yeah.
And so I can say something, and one person can have one take on it, another person can have another take on it, and I'm just here kind of going, I had neither of those in mind.
Yeah.
But it's, I put it out there and people do with it what they want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can't get too attached to what's going to happen to it. You just have
Right.
to offer it up.
And in comedy, I know that most jokes have a basis, at least in some way, shape, or form, in reality.
Yes. Yes. Starts with a kernel of truth.
Yes.
So something happens, get your mind going, and so it's got that. But the further you stretch it, the funnier it is.
It can be, yes.
Yeah, right.
There are some subjects that are just don't go over well. Like people just stop laughing.
Oh, correct.
For example, me having autism.
You having autism. I have. Well, we've covered this already on a different podcast, but I have, up until the last couple of years, have refused to share you in a comedy club because you're not up. I don't offer you up for a laugh.
Right.
What I talk about is my experience with you.
Yes.
And believe me, here's the deal, Josh. Everything that we go through, it's like you just have you're smarter than me. You've got the stuff figured out, and I can get all tangled up. The funny part is how I'm going along in a certain direction, and like you take me off like in a sharp turn, a direction that I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
And the things that are very difficult in life are also, to me, the things that are the funniest.
Yeah. Is that why you don't let me drive?
Oh my gosh, I would.
You don't let me drive you.
It's why I don't like riding with you. Like we mentioned that last week, I think it was too. I had to ride with you the other day, and you don't know how to use your brake going around turns. No, but there are some things that you've got to be very careful about how you present them. And for me, autism is not a joke.
Right.
And you are not a joke.
Correct.
What I find funny is my expectation that is pointed out to me on a daily basis how ridiculous it is, and also the experiences that we have, that we find ourselves in, that can either be devastating or you laugh.
Yeah.
And
it's easy. It's easier to laugh about things, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean sometimes you feel the devastation.
Yeah.
Until you're able to laugh. There's a something in comedy. I don't know who said it, but is tragedy plus time equals comedy.
Yes.
And so you have to be able to absorb what's you're dealing with. You have to absorb the situation, absorb the reality of things sometimes, and give it and be able to do that and process, and then you're able to see the funny in it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, of course, we find ourselves in situations that are so ridiculous that we just laugh right away.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. But so the disbelief, I guess what I'm asking you about, I guess why I wanted to talk to you about these characters, is that there's something about them that seem to be very appealing to the people that I know that are on the spectrum.
Right.
And
I just thought of the perfect way to say it.
Okay.
Superheroes superheroes are usually very black and white, and this is the rules that they follow. This is the ones that they don't accept. Like Spider-Man is very morally good. You do that so quietly, but it's so perfect. Oh my gosh. Batman has he has a strict no killing policy that he does not abide by someone being killed.
Okay.
Especially not by his hands.
Okay.
But Batman will beat the crap out of you. Mm-hmm. if he catches you doing bad.
Why is everything so dark?
Because that's the universe that DC Comics has made. That Batman lives in.
Is he sad?
Do you know anything about Batman?
No, he doesn't. That he just doesn't.
He grew up with no parents because they were murdered right in front of him when he was a little kid. Then he fell down a well.
He fell down a well?
Yes, he fell down a well and was surrounded by bats. And it scared the crap out of him. Uh-huh. Until he was finally rescued by I think it was his butler or something like that. But, or it might have been the reverse.
Well, if he was scared of the bats, by the way, are lovely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. They are very misunderstood creatures.
Yeah.
So he fell in a well, and then he was saved
after like an hour.
And then he connected with the bats. You don't know?
No, but my point is that he grew up in sadness.
So he's a sad dude.
With mommy and daddy issues, sort of, yeah.
So because he seems kind of, okay, so other characters.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Wonder Woman,
mm-hmm.
who has an invisible plane.
Mm-hmm. Lasso of Truth.
The Lasso of Truth.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. She can deflect bullets with her wristwear.
Mm-hmm. With her jewelry.
Yes.
With her bling. Yeah. So what makes...
That's also DC Comics, by the way. Same universe.
Okay. If we jumped universes, who would we visit?
Marvel.
Who is...
Iron Man, Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider-Man.
Yes.
That's my favorite.
Yes. And Thor...
What about Hulk?
Hulk was the next one I was going to say. Mm-hmm. He's also Marvel.
Okay. I know that there's shows that have all of them together. I've never seen it.
You've never seen them?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I've seen Spider-Man.
Which
when Batman comes on, I just don't...
Yeah.
It doesn't draw me in. I'm just not interested. But I want to get back to you
mm-hmm.
and your experience with them in that, do you like those kinds of shows and going to the theater to see them and going to Comic-Con, and because everybody can be something other than who they are?
Yeah, it's not just that. It's also in regards to the Comic-Con and things like that.
Yeah.
It's also the camaraderie between the fans.
See, that's part of this that's super interesting to me.
Yeah.
That, again, this is just from my experience. So my experience is that your friends that are on the spectrum, that I know personally, all love going to these places with you.
Yeah.
And in the past, you've done it.
Mm-hmm.
So these people that I know that are on the spectrum, they go there for the connection with other people.
Yes and no.
Okay.
It's not specifically all about the other people.
Okay.
But that is part of it. I keep bringing up D&D, and there's a reason for this.
Okay.
In D&D, you play as a character, like I said last week. And you can play something that you're absolutely not in real life.
Right.
Whenever you're in a Comic-Con or something similar to that, a lot of times people are dressed up in costumes where you don't see the people's faces.
Okay.
Like,
Batman.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And, so, one of the things that you have to think about then is that you are no longer portraying yourself. You're portraying a character. And so you try and act like the character would.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you can let loose and just have fun with what you're doing.
Well, is it because the content is you have this in common with the people that you're with right there, right off the bat, or because it's your point of interest, or just because you're in costume, just like with D&D, you don't have to worry about the repercussions on.
There are still rules within Comic-Con that you have to follow and things like that, but that's exactly it.
Okay.
Is you don't have to limit yourself to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You can be anybody and just have fun.
And
It's not always so stressful. Like being me,
mm-hmm.
I'm stressed sometimes being me.
Mm-hmm.
So going to D&D and things like that, and just
Mm-hmm.
being able to relax and be someone I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
is such a relief.
Is it also exhausting?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's more because it is a social environment.
Is there an aspect of the Comic-Con events that you've gone to where people are just I forgot the question. As I was asking it, I forgot the question. Shoot. What was I going to ask you?
Are the people that go to Comic-Con...
Yeah, I know I got that far. What was the question? Shoot.
Are the people that I go to Comic-Con with...
I don't know. I'll have to come back to the question.
Okay.
It was one that I really wanted to get to, and then it flew out of my head. Yeah. Shoot, what was it?
Do you have it written down?
No, I don't have it written down because it was something that I really wanted to ask you, so I just thought that I would remember it. And then I did until I just started asking the question, and then it flew out of my head. So I'll remember.
Okay.
Do you think that people on the spectrum are good actors? Would make good actors?
Sometimes. Not all of them either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, take myself for example.
Mm-hmm.
I am horrible at lying.
Right.
But whenever I'm acting to portray something or someone,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not lying. I'm just pretending to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually makes it's easy for me to fall into a role.
Oh, I know what I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Okay. So, specifically, when you go into a scenario where you're a character
Mm-hmm.
that's not D&D.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're there with your friends. Is part of it that you do not have to follow social norms and you don't have to rely on what is typically acceptable or unacceptable in those situations? So are you actually able to have conversations easier? For some people, you had to learn to look people in the eye
Mm-hmm.
when you spoke. Do you think that they kind of, for a brief period of time, kind of transcends the barriers that you have. Like you say, it's difficult when you're yourself, but when you're these characters,
Right.
are those things kind of moved forward when you're in those moments when you're at like Comic-Con?
Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. Yes. For example, part of the work that you put in was to look at people in their eyes when you're speaking to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're speaking to you.
Right.
So if you were a character and that was an issue for you,
Mm-hmm.
would you be able to transcend the difficulty that you, Josh, has with that, and that you're released from the social norms that you struggle with, so that then you can look somebody in the eye when you're a character? Am I not?
I mean, yeah, you're making sense. I'm trying to formulate a response.
Okay.
Maybe not that example,
Mm-hmm.
but in a sense, yes. It is. The reason I say not that example
Mm-hmm.
is because, like I said, a lot of different costumes have masks that don't show people's eyes
Okay.
or will hide your own face.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily have to see. You can't necessarily see some people's in the eyes.
Okay, let me give you a
But
different.
no. I understand what you're saying. I was saying how that example didn't work. But I was. Yeah. For the most part, it is acting. So it kind of is a little bit easier because most of the time you understand the character that you're trying to portray. You understand the motivations, you understand the reason that they are. And sometimes that does make it easier to interact with other people.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to portray this certain character and you're able to get into their head like that, you can act as that character and how that character would act towards other people.
Do people at Comic-Con have their own costumes?
Yes.
So sometimes you're meeting somebody that's in a costume that you don't know who they are because they've invented the costume, right?
For the most part, the character is already made, but there are some times where people will dress up just to dress up. Like people at a Renaissance fair, for example.
Yes, those are very fun.
Yes, but most of those people are not based off of real people.
It's a time period.
It's a time period, yes, rather than specific people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
Those if you ever, anybody here that listening, if you've never been to a Renaissance fair,
Oh my gosh.
I would recommend it. It
Yes.
is so much fun.
Yes.
Oh, it's awesome. I love the human
Chessboard?
Chessboard, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
So I don't think that I've been very effective at asking you the questions that I wanted to ask you, and why I wanted to talk about this subject to begin with.
Okay.
It seems to me that when you put on a costume, like actors, when they take on a role, they're that person.
Yes.
And it seems to me that you and your friends are able to go and become somebody that freely have conversations and share jokes and laugh. And it's almost like you've gone to this other world where all of a sudden, you know, you're able just to, you know, like snap your fingers and you're able to. I'm just saying things, not that you're not this, but you would just snap your fingers and not say somebody that's usually not, would be witty.
Yeah.
Would be funny.
Yeah.
Would be smooth.
Yeah.
Would be very comfortable saying things to other people and having conversations. And so when we talk about somebody, you know, you have had to work
so hard
to look people in the eye, I mean, how many times we go to the store just so I can have you interact with the person behind the counter? You know, to go, you know, have you pick something out and then go up and buy it and get the change and just so that you had that interaction with, you know, in and around the community. So you had to work very hard. That stuff didn't come naturally to you.
Right.
You didn't know that when somebody says, "How are you?" that it's rhetoric. It's not really.
It's a pleasantry.
It's a pleasantry. They're not asking you really to divulge everything that's happened.
Yeah.
That didn't come naturally.
Right.
So, for you and people like you, who are your friends that you've gone with, to all of a sudden go to this place, I just wanted to talk to you about this because I kind of envy this place that you go where, and I don't mean the location.
Right, mentally.
I mean for you and your friends to have this place where you can just feel so comfortable and at home.
Yeah.
And free to express yourselves.
Yeah.
And I asked you last week about D&D, and I'm not asking you about D&D now. I'm asking you about those kind of experiences at Comic-Con.
Right.
Do they help you to interact with others outside of Comic-Con?
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
How is that?
Are you talking about the acting part of it, or are you talking about the...
I'm talking about afterwards, when you're done, you leave there, or...
Oh,
either way,
yes.
Either way, when you're there, how does it help you to? Here's what I guess I'm. If you're not somebody that typically wants to talk to other people a lot, you go to this place where you know there's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of conversation.
Right.
It doesn't seem to create stress. It creates. I don't know if there is such a thing, but like good anxiety.
Yeah.
And you use that and you go out and then you have these interactions. Yeah. So how does the whole thing help you in your daily life? And how do you feel better just having that in your life?
Well, one of the... I'm going to answer this in a roundabout way.
Okay.
But one of the cool things that has happened to me at a Comic-Con... I know it seems like I'm not answering the question.
No, you are. I'm waiting. That's cool.
There is a particular author that I actually really love his writings. And so does RJ. His name is Timothy Zahn.
Okay.
And he is essentially the grandfather of all written Star Wars novels. In the sense that he's the one who started them.
Oh.
He's the one who started them that were not based off the movies.
Did he write them before the movies?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Once the movies started to come out, he started to write the extended universe.
Okay.
Which means that he would write things...
Different characters?
Yes, new characters.
Okay. So he didn't write Star Wars. It was
right.
called something else?
Right.
What's it called?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Oh, okay.
He's written so many.
So there's not like a series of books that are all under... Because like, there's... If you say Star Wars...
Most of the stuff that he's written is now considered legacy, which means it's not canon anymore because Disney bought it.
You lost me already.
Yeah.
Also, the
anyway.
thing is about Star Wars, just to say this, I saw the very first Star Wars movie in the Roxy Theater in Pacific Beach in San Diego, California, where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having red vine licorice, which to this day is one of my favorite things of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing that. And yet, I also remember that was the first one that came out, but then Star Wars somehow made it so that's not the first anymore. So,
it was always episode 4.
Oh, it was, no! I
Yes.
saw it. It was the only one out. It
I
means
know.
It means that...
It was called Star Wars: A New Hope.
And it had Chewbacca.
Yes.
It had the CP3O. It had...
C-3PO,
yeah.
Yeah. You're doing the hand movements he does.
Yeah. Yes. And Princess Leia.
Yes.
And Obi-Wan Kenobi, who kept on going, and then he would, like, he was like this, and when he wasn't there, but he was there, he was like this hologram that he would say something, you would see him, and or her, I don't remember. But anyway, yes, I saw it.
Okay.
And it was the only one.
Yeah.
And it was the first.
Yeah.
And now it's not.
Yeah.
And Star Wars makes no sense to me. Because how do you do that? How do you just... It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
But...
Rant over.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I met Timothy Zahn.
Awesome.
At Comic-Con.
Awesome.
And we started talking about Star Wars and his writings for him.
Mm-hmm.
I actually ended up buying a book from him and getting him to sign it for RJ.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it is one of his most treasured books now.
Oh.
And
nice. That's nice.
And so one of the things that happened was that we started talking.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not something that I would have been able to do whenever I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Just to be able to just talk with someone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so yeah, it was me. I was actually dressed up as a character from a cartoon,
mm-hmm.
an anime.
Mm-hmm.
But I was myself when talking to him. And so it was very, very cool to be able to talk to him. He was a very down-to-earth guy.
Mm-hmm.
And very open with what he was saying. It even said some things I can't really talk about because I'm under contract.
Okay.
Although he did hint at some things.
Oh, you better be careful.
I know, right?
Yeah,
I know, right?
Yeah. We should change the subject real quick here before you let something out.
Yeah. But
so you're saying you went there as a character.
Mm-hmm. But I talked to him as myself.
Okay. And did being there as the character help to get you to a place where you were comfortable talking to somebody as yourself?
In this case, having the experience of talking as someone else
Uh-huh.
helped me.
Okay.
Because it did help me because I'm not what's the word? Open, available.
When you're out talking to other people?
Yeah. I'm hesitant, I guess, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, having been at the Comic-Con for a couple of times, This particular time was maybe my third or fourth convention. And it was the first time I'd ever dressed up as anyone, though. But it was the second or third day of the convention itself. And I went there and I just had fun making people cringe at who I was dressed as. But
I remember that.
Yes,
I remember that.
Yes.
It's something that's I think might be connected is that your whole life you've been very comfortable on stage.
Yeah.
So you were part of when you were in high school. You were in an a cappella group. Just the best of the kids in the school.
Yeah.
Where you had to audition and be selected for that.
And there was at most 12 of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was an a cappella group, and you were wonderful in that. Just fantastic. And you loved going different places and singing.
Yeah.
And you were in school plays. And you did very well in the plays. And so I guess this started from a younger age for you, but it sounds like what you're saying is the opportunity to pretend to be somebody else helps you to find your own voice.
Yes, very much so. Yes. Those experiences helped open me up more to the possibilities of conversations.
And then dressing up as you became an adult and you do the Comic-Con, you are able to express yourself as that character that you've become.
Yeah.
And that, you're saying, if I heard you right, that helps to open you up to have conversations as you as well.
Yes.
Do you know what it is about those experiences that help you as Josh to be able to communicate with people? And because now what happens is you go on a stage and you're sharing we call it a speech, but you're sharing information, and it's funny, and it's sad,
heartfelt,
and it's vulnerable, and that you're able to do that extremely well. And
I would like to say that part of that is from seeing so many different psychologists and psychiatrists.
Oh, I never thought you would say that.
Being so open about things is I got that from just seeing so many of those growing up. Because they would switch so often.
Yes.
That I'd have to get used to just opening up to a brand new person.
Yeah.
So it was very stressful to begin with. But it ended up being where I can do what I do today.
Because you understand yourself.
Yes.
Right. That's always been a big part of
opening up, is to be able to understand what you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, where you're feeling it.
Yeah. And not labeling it as good, bad, right, or wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's...
Although that is sometimes the case, it's not just that. Right.
And so maybe the younger kids coming up that are on the spectrum, maybe being part of a play or having that opportunity to be a character would be something that would really help them to find their voice as themselves as they grow up.
That reminds me of something, actually. there was recently I forget if it was a chorus or if it was an acting group that was specifically made for kids on the spectrum.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. And they recently had their first concert.
Mm-hmm.
Or play or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big success.
Mm.
And so I just remembered that, but
yeah. It's so important.
yeah,
So important.
yeah,
I just feel like I remember watching you growing up, on stage, and just, growing up, you really did. It was hard.
yeah,
It was hard. You had a hard time fitting in or
Right.
expressing yourself, or even things had to be just right, and when they weren't, this sensory overload
yeah,
was too much, and you wouldn't able to participate.
Yeah.
But when you got on the stage, it was like you were free.
yeah, yeah,
And I guess that what I saw from you being that sense that I got when you were on stage
yeah,
is why you like D&D so much, because I think that you're free when you do that.
yeah,
And I think probably when you go to Comic-Con, you're free.
yeah.
Just like for me, okay, look, if I was Spider-Man, that's how it would feel. This
Yeah.
freedom of...
Yeah, I don't know about swinging webs from heights,
Oh.
let alone going around running around in your underwear. But
He's in his underwear?
I don't know. It
I
looks
don't think
like
so.
it.
Well, he's in...
He's in
Red-
spandex.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I just think that he's something out of his wrist it is, and
Something like that.
and
Yeah.
then and it grabs a hold, and he's able to fly, and
Well, he pulls himself using that webbing.
it just looks like so much fun.
Mm.
But of course, I would jump out of a plane,
Mm-hmm.
and I would do bungee jumping, and I can't wait to do zip line.
Mm.
Those kinds of things to me just look awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't do those.
Man, if I, it's not going to happen this lifetime, but I think it's awesome to be a pilot.
Mm. Yes, that I can agree with.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. Well, I'm sorry, Button. I just pulled her tail. All right. Well, I just think it's awesome that I don't think that maybe I asked the correct questions, but I think ultimately we got there.
Yeah.
But I thank you for sharing all that, Josh, because
Yeah.
I really feel like that experience for you is just made a huge difference in your life.
Yeah.
And I think that for others on the spectrum, it could do the same thing. And I think that it might be something that somebody's needing right now. It could
Yeah.
make all the difference. Yeah. All right. Okay. Button is telling us it's time to go.
Yeah.
So-
she's looking for a way off the bed now.
Yeah. All right. Everybody, this was a long-winded one. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
We appreciate you so much. If you check out the website, it's sonyaking.com, sonyaking.com. That would be awesome. Send us messages, send us notes, and we hope that you are healthy and happy. Oh yeah, could you give us 5 stars? That would be great. Hope that your life is going perfectly, and you're fulfilled and getting all that you need in life.
Yeah.
And we will speak with you next week. Love you.
Bye.